Hey, welcome NFL football fans. It's that time again, time for another edition of NFL Football Talk. We're in the off season, but we're going to keep on rolling here. I'm your host, Charles E. Smith Jr. This is an Inside Sports production. And hey, we'll just bring you up to date on all of the free agency, all of the changing that's going on here. But as you know, I do not work alone. I do enlist the help of the very, very best. So here he is from somewhere in an undisclosed location in beautiful Southern California. The man many of you already follow on Twitter at Chris L Sports. That's at CHRIS, the letter L, and then Sports. A proud graduate of Rutgers University, none other than my main man, Chris Lardieri. Chris, what's happening out there?
Charles, I can't believe it's been a month. It's great to be back, knocking off some of these cobwebs. Feels like an eternity since the Eagles last won the Super Bowl, and now it's been, the quarterback shuffle and free agency's begun and everything else. But first and foremost, just want to get this off my chest. I know March Madness is here. I will spare you the details. I'm not going to give you my bracket picks, predictions, etc., because I know they won't be good, and this is a football show. But I just wanted to get that out there.
All righty. Yeah, some good stuff. So, this is a great time of year because we look at the whole thing of free agency where, as a GM, my salary cap burden, it turns out to be your missing piece to a Super Bowl puzzle. So really, it's almost like trading the stock market. This is what it's like when the guys are in the pit on Wall Street trying to trade these different stocks. Because remember, whenever you're selling a stock, it's because someone else is buying and vice versa. So everybody's betting in different ways, and it's just crazy. I mean, the names of players that are just getting traded, not many trades, but pretty much released and picked up. Richard Sherman gone from the Seattle Seahawks, and he's now going to be with the 49ers. Niners won the last 5 games of their season. They seem to be loading up. Michael Bennett has actually gone from Seattle too. He's gone to the Eagles, who seem like they are bound and determined to get a second Super Bowl ring in a row, as they also sent Torrey Smith packing. But a lot of good stuff going on. And, what's your take on all of the early stuff and also the monster contract of QB Kirk Cousins?
It's astounding. I mean, once Garoppolo got his money and Alex Smith went to the Redskins and he got his deal, you knew it was inevitable. I'm really surprised, and we talked about this in pre-production, how Cousins only got 3 years. People seem to be surprised by that, but I think the conventional wisdom is what has surprised me. Look at how much guaranteed money he's getting. I mean, what does it work out to be? $28 million per.
Right. And it's completely guaranteed. His contract is 100% guaranteed money.
Exactly. So, I mean, everyone's like, oh, it was only 3 years, and why did he go to the Vikings? Well, guess what? That's all his money. There's no smoke and mirrors where a guy signs a $60 million deal and maybe 25 of it's guaranteed. I mean, that's all his. The guy played his cards right. He got franchised 2 years in a row. If you ask me, he's maybe an above average quarterback, but I think as everyone learned, not only do you need a quality starting quarterback, in the case of the Eagles, you better have a darn good backup too, and you can win a Super Bowl. But I think teams realize, if I am not the Cleveland Browns, the Giants, whoever's near the top of the draft, I have no shot at getting a franchise quarterback, and I'm going to have to pay market price to get one. And even look still with Case Keenum hit payday going to Denver. I mean, a year ago, no one would even thought this guy would be a fill-in starter, never mind getting a contract coming off a nice year with the Vikings. And then how about Sam Bradford and Mike Glennon going to Arizona? Bradford's got a, questionable knee at best, and I think he made $15 million to go be a quarterback there. I used to say maybe I didn't want my son to play football, but it could be rewarding if you're a left tackle or a quarterback in this league, right?
Yeah, that's true. And speaking of left tackles, hey, we got to give it up to Joe Thomas, who is a great left tackle, played in relative obscurity because he was a left tackle for the Cleveland Browns. So the statistics show he protected the blind side of 20 different garbage quarterbacks while playing in Cleveland. 11-year NFL career, 10 times a Pro Bowler, 7 times All-Pro, 2 times second-team All-Pro. So definitely a first ballot Hall of Famer. I think played 10,368 consecutive snaps, which I believe is the longest streak in history. And hey, too bad he had to play it all in Cleveland. And in fact, right now, it looks like Cleveland is – can you ever say that Cleveland is loading up? I mean, Josh Gordon, who's a question mark, but if he's healthy, Josh Gordon on one side, Jarvis Landry on the other. it looks like Cleveland might be ready to make some noise if Tyrod Taylor, their new quarterback, can actually get the ball down the field.
And as usual, we're back to square one with the Browns. Do they have a quarterback? I do think they're interesting moves, and as you see, they're trying to get some guys that are veterans as opposed to just doing it solely through the draft. But really, the Taylor one and just how quickly they bailed on Kaiser. I mean, why give this party line that they thought he was an NFL-ready quarterback, and then a year later trade him away, which, by the way, doesn't bode well for Brett Hundley's future, I take it, in Green Bay behind Rodgers. But I think it's still interesting. Even with Taylor, does that mean the Browns are not necessarily going to take a quarterback? I don't know. I mean, they're throwing smoke signals out there that they want Barkley. But if you ask me, Tyrod Taylor's maybe a one-year fill-in. Maybe he holds that seat for a rookie, or, in the case of they think he's a very serviceable backup, a la Jacoby Brissett with Andrew Luck, that sort of thing. But I'll give the Browns credit. At least they're trying to shake it up. They're not doing the Moneyball approach and solely trying to stock draft picks. Now, well, if these moves pan out remains to be seen. One thing back to Thomas, I mean, phenomenal career. Imagine if he played on a winning team or in a big market. I mean, we'd be raving about this guy right now. Well, the one kind of takeaway I have from this is I'm wondering, I've heard him on the radio. I know he's got a podcast, and I'm wondering if he's one of these dark horse candidates for the Monday Night Football color commentator job. Remains to be seen.
Yeah, that would be great if that happened for him, because no one could be more deserving. And definitely, he's a first ballot Hall of Famer. It's going to be shocking if he doesn't get on the first ballot. But, going back, maybe we'll see what the Browns are going to do, because are they gonna go after Barkley with the in the first couple of picks, or maybe they get Tyrod Taylor? How about sending Taylor, work a deal with the Eagles, send Taylor to the Eagles, and get Nick Foles to come to come to Cleveland once they know that Carson Wentz is healthy and ready to start. Maybe they can work a deal like that. And now, speaking of wide receiver threats, we got to go to the AFC West, where the Kansas City Chiefs. Now they got rid of Alex Smith. Mahomes is going to be their starting quarterback. They're going to have Tyreek Hill on one side, and now they got Sammy Watkins on the other. So dual threats down the field. It looks like maybe only Andy Reid can stop this offense.
As we've said year upon year upon year previously, right? I got to say, tangentially related to that, I kind of like the offseason the Rams have had. As a Giants fan, I want to thank them for trading Alec Ogletree. I get he doesn't fit into Wade Phillips 3-4, but they didn't franchise Watkins, and honestly, he was kind of a feast or famine guy last year. Loads of talent, but I don't think you pay him 15 per. And then look what they did. They let Trumaine Johnson walk. The Jets overpay him, I believe, $15 million as well. And they trade for two corners that really are probably two of the best, I think, in the NFL. I know everyone likes to talk about Richard Sherman, but they got Marcus Peters at a very controllable salary cap number, and Aqib Talib, who, now that he's gotten away from Michael Crabtree in the AFC West, which is his nemesis, he won't have to start any fights, and maybe he can focus on playing football. But very interesting year, and I know they traded Quinn to Miami too, but I do think they made a good move letting Watkins walk. Will he do well in Kansas City? Potentially, but I'm kind of down on him. I really think he's underachieved. And you look at what he did with the Rams last year, he'd have some big games and disappear for weeks at a time.
Well, Watkins, to me, though, I watched him when he was in Buffalo. Yes, folks, I do watch Buffalo Bills games. I do. It's my secret shame. But I watched Watkins when he was in Buffalo. I mean, the guy has a great catch radius. He's, he's strong. He can get open. But for some reason, he just never got on the same page with Jared Goff and that Rams offense. So it's kind of one of those, he had a down year, but I think he still has just as much talent as when he went to the Rams. So if he can fit in there in Kansas City and they can stretch the field the way that they really want to, I think it's one of those things where he could be really kind of a found gold type of a thing.
Yeah, I mean, from a Kansas City perspective, while me personally wouldn't pay that kind of money, I'll put it to you this way. I'd rather have him than Jarvis Landry, who I think is far more overrated.
Yep, Jarvis Landry, we'll see. Jarvis Landry, to me, he's kind of he's the Mike Wallace type of receiver where you always think, oh my goodness, if he ever actually starts catching the ball, what are we going to do? So, and someone like Mike Wallace, I mention him because I understand he's one who's supposed to stretch the defense. So when you watch Mike Wallace play, yeah, he may scare you 4 or 5 times a game, but what does he actually do, and what are the numbers, and what are the overall impact he has on the team? I think is not nearly, he's just paid on a potential his whole career. So we'll see what Landry does. But I think one other thing that's interesting is just the slow and methodic dismantling of the Legion of Boom there in Seattle. And when you look at it, not just when you look at Marshawn Lynch leaving, having left a season ago, and now it's very slowly in the more outspoken players who are leaving the team. So Michael Bennett is gone, Richard Sherman is gone. So it seems like they're kind of undergoing a personality makeover. Darrell Bevell is finally gone. I would have fired him right after Super Bowl 49, but that's just me. But anyway, yeah, things are going on over there in Seattle. Also, Jimmy Graham, Jimmy Graham is going to be gone now too. Even though he was a late addition, supposed to be that kind of over-the-top receiver, big tight end type, but he never really fit in there either. That just happens sometimes.
Yeah, and I completely agree with what you said, whether these are guys who are outspoken or maybe we don't know. We had heard there are factions within that locker room and some strife directed at Russell Wilson. And let's face it, at the end of the day, it's a dollars and cents game. And Richard Sherman was getting paid a tremendous amount of money. He's physically a cornerback in decline. You can't justify it. I mean, look, Tyrann Mathieu, Honey Badger with the Cardinals, gets cut today, a much younger guy, but he's had knee issues, and this is just the way the business of the NFL has gone. But I get what the Seahawks are doing. At some point, they need to retool and get younger. I'm guessing better now than later. It's funny how the balance of power appears to have been shifting south to LA and San Francisco, but we see what happened even with the Eagles. You can turn things around in a very quick time if you draft effectively and strategically allocate your cap budget and free agent resources correctly. So we'll see. I mean, they've got Wilson locked up, but a lot remains to be seen on the defensive side of the ball, which was declining last year, frankly.
Yeah, that's true. And I won't tell Richard Sherman that you said he was a cornerback in decline, because I don't want him to find your crib somewhere. And that's one of the reasons why I always say somewhere in an undisclosed location in Southern California. So if you see him driving up there, I won't say which freeway, might want to just stay inside. But hey, you know what? I like the Eagles. What the Eagles did, though, Eagles getting Michael Bennett up front, and also they picked up Haloti Ngata. I understand, both of them are kind of in the twilight of their careers, over 30, but with a team that strong, needing to just load up for this year, if Ngata and Bennett can be as strong as they were for just one season, it's going to be really hard to stop them from getting back to the Super Bowl again.
Yeah, I mean, especially defensively, and the Eagles realize that you need to build on that side of the ball. I think the bigger question remains is Wentz's health, and if he's not ready, is Foles a 16? I'm not necessarily 16 game, but an every game starter. I mean, we saw what he did in the postseason, but I want to see it in a bigger sample size. That said, you look at the NFC East and the way it's constructed. There's really no good reason, barring injuries, for the Eagles not to be contenders to at least win that division, get one home game, and head to the playoffs. So everything after that's a crapshoot. But I'll give them this much: they're not resting with the lineup they have now. They're tinkering with it, looking to make improvements. And I think you've got to be optimistic if you're an Eagles fan, for sure.
Yeah, that's true. And then we'll go ahead and another team in green there, the Jets. They're going to bank their future now on Teddy Bridgewater, who was supposed to be the man in Minnesota, but Bridgewater, he is kind of a weak arm quarterback. He is. Maybe you think the Jets are looking for the second coming of Chad Pennington there, or what?
Yeah, I think it's a short-term deal. I know they brought McCown back at $10 million, which it's another career-enhancing move. Backup quarterback will get you paid pretty well, but I'm starting to wonder, maybe the Jets really are looking to draft a quarterback, not rush him. I mean, I believe they sit at 6 right now. There's a lot of buzz about the Wyoming quarterback, Allen. Not quite sure. Maybe Bridgewater is a plug-in or a fill-in, that sort of thing. But on top of that, never mind the arm. I mean, the guy came off major knee surgery. Is he really going to be the same? Is he going to have the same range of mobility? I'm not sure. But at the end of the day, I guess if I'm going to take a bad knee ex-Minnesota quarterback, I'd take Bridgewater over Sam Bradford. I'll give them that much.
Well, I don't know. I remember my Miami Dolphins. They gambled on a bad-kneed Minnesota quarterback and Dante Culpepper when they could have taken Drew Brees instead, who was who's getting released by the Chargers. They gambled on a knee instead of a shoulder, and I remember how that turned out. I think we all do. So, yeah, we'll see what happens there. And I think we're entering the era. When you talk about a backup quarterback, getting $10 million a year, maybe you'll have kids in school now who are playing football, and you say, "What do you want to be?" It's like, "I want to go to the NFL and be a backup quarterback." Right?
Why not? If it doesn't work out, just look at Tim Tebow. Then you could become a baseball player, right?
Yep, exactly. So, what do you think? So we've given you a little recap of all the things going on. Also, Ndamukong Suh got released by the Dolphins when they could not find a trade partner. And why would they find a trade partner? Why would you trade for him when you can just let him hit free agency and then, go ahead and pay him whatever that big money is, because the Dolphins did kind of overpay him. I got to wonder what's going on, though, with my Dolphins with Suh getting released, then the trade of Jay Ajayi in the midseason last year for a fourth-round draft pick. Jarvis Landry's gone. And I got to wonder if it's make or break time for Adam Gase there in Miami. Also, they picked up Danny Amendola. He's going to be trying to work his magic there in South Florida. But I think this kind of turmoil, and it kind of reminds me a little bit of the Chip Kelly era in Philadelphia, even though with a lot less success.
Yeah, that's a great analogy. And when I first read these stories and Gase and the locker room issues and trying to clean house, having flashbacks going back a ways to Josh McDaniels in Denver. And by no means am I saying Adam Gase will pass on a future head coaching opportunity if given the chance. But it's just odd to me. I agree with you. He's got to really dug in on this. And if they don't get the results, I really can't see Miami sticking with him. But I get Suh from a cap perspective and the fact that he's older and hasn't really justified that money. But trading Landry and really, who are your receiving options? Amendola is a nice receiver, but he's not a number one or a number two, more of a slot guy. Played well in that Belichick/McDaniel system. So really going to be interesting. And look, Charles, we still haven't answered the bigger picture question in Miami. Who's the quarterback?
Well, I think we got two guys who are down to their last year here, and I think Adam Gase is one. You got to get it done now, or that's it. And also Tannehill, if he doesn't start at least 14 games this year, I'm ready to move on. I'll just let you know that. Me, as the unofficial GM of the Miami Dolphins, I'm ready to move on from Tannehill if he can't start 14 games this year. But then again, I compare it to the Chip Kelly era. Maybe it'll happen like that, because we thought there was going to be a nuclear winter in Philadelphia after Chip Kelly left and left everything in disarray. And look at it. A couple years later, they win the Super Bowl. So maybe that'll happen for the Dolphins.
Yeah, that's the good thing about the NFL. There's always hope. You don't have to do like the NBA where you tank for 6 consecutive years and stockpile draft picks. Things can turn around in a hurry.
Absolutely. So remember, everybody, show us NFL Football Talk. I'm Charles E. Smith Jr. That man over there is Chris Lardieri. Follow me on Twitter at The Inside Sports. Follow Chris on Twitter at Chris L Sports. That's at CHRIS, the letter L, and then sports. So, Chris, before we get out of here, you have some final words of wisdom for everybody?
I do. It's lost in the midst of money. Well, I hope Drew can live off of that money. Nothing against him, but I'm more attacking the journalist, or in quotes per se, that wrote that. But I mean, you got to give the guy credit. He wants to try and win. He likes the system. He likes playing for Sean Payton. I don't see what's so appalling about it. And then too, this kind of kicked off the whole free agency thing. The Jaguars surveyed the market and said, you know what? The devil you know is better than the devil you don't know, and they restructured Blake Bortles' deal. So I don't know if Tom Coughlin and Doug Marrone really think he can get the job done, but this is really could be a Super Bowl contender, and they've still got Blake Bortles at quarterback. Not sure what to read into it, but for whatever they're paying him, it's a lot cheaper than Cousins and company. And then finally, too, for all you football fans out there, before we have our next podcast, stop looking at mock drafts. Don't believe everything you read. I have people come up to me, what are the Giants going to do? I have no idea. There's so much smoke mirrors and disarray and trying to shop the pick. Are they not? At this point, I've given up, and I'm just waiting for Goodell to go into Dallas, get booed by the fans after his latest run-in with Jerry Jones, and announce the first pick for Cleveland.
Yeah, there we go. And also, one thing I want to say is, a lot of with the players who were kneeling in protest last year because of the everything that Colin Kaepernick had done during the final months of Obama being in office, when Kaepernick thought that the country was in so much turmoil that he was going to kneel in protest. But here you have all these players who are talking about kneeling and how much they really care about society and want to make a change. But here the season is over. How many of them are actually doing anything? So I think when it comes down to it, it's a lot easier to just kneel for 2 minutes when you're at work, which is what they are, is at work, while a TV camera is on you, and act like you're an activist, than it is to truly hands-on, be proactive, and do something. So as I said before, the whole thing of the players kneeling is just like when everybody changes their Facebook profile pic to support the people who are victims of some kind of tragedy. It's all just a whole lot of nothing. They say that they were activists, they want to affect change, and then what happens as soon as the season's over? They're off to wherever, Tahiti, hot tubs, strippers, and everything else. And that's that. Hey, that's what it comes down to. Hey, prove me wrong, boys. If I'm wrong, go ahead and prove me wrong.
Well, I believe there's one. Didn't Chris Long donate his entire season salary? I mean, he put his money where his mouth is.
There's a couple. Yes, absolutely. There's a couple. But by and large, overall, yeah, not a whole lot.
Yeah, so I've got to give it to him. I mean, I know he's probably made money in the past, but come on. I mean, a year's salary, even if he's getting paid a few $1,000,000, that's a lot of money. I mean, I gotta give him credit for that. But that's the thing. The guys who do it aren't looking for notoriety. So they fly below the radar, kind of like society in general. You know how it is, Charles. The Kardashians of the world get all our love and attention and publicity, and then there are plenty of people out there doing good in the trenches that go unnoticed.
Yeah, that's true. And I would like to finally, I thank Roger Goodell for one of the things that we have mentioned on this show. Was I had said if the players were kneeling, I would have made them all write 500 words on why they're kneeling. And then just a couple of months ago, Goodell announces that he's actually going to have the players. There's going to be a forum set up where they can actually put up their thoughts and feelings and all that kind of stuff on society and what needs to make it better, which is something that I'd suggest they do in the middle of the season, because if you're going to create unity, people need to have understanding. Understanding is the only way to actually create unity, not just get up on a soapbox, scream and yell and say you're either for me or against me. Understand how I feel, I understand how you feel, and that's how we actually get somewhere.
Yeah, the proverbial we agree to disagree. What happened to that?
All right, everybody. Remember, the show is NFL Football Talk. It's Inside Sports Production. And we'll give you another update probably as the draft draws nigh, or maybe in the wake of the draft. We'll see what's happening. I'm Charles E. Smith Jr., and for Mr. Chris Lardieri, we'll see everybody next time. Thank you for watching.